Good morning, people. Let's continue talking about Taekwondo. Let's talk about Song H. Kim, an associate of mine, the late Ed Youngsa. That's the associate, not Song H. Kim. And some stuff I saw and stuff I heard about. So, I'd gotten out of the Marines and started teaching at Golden Eagle Karate. At the time, I was the first dan in Golden Eagle Karate. Jeff immediately recognized that and recognized me as a second degree black belt. Kind of bumped me. And I was teaching 5 days a week. I was having a ball, having the time of my life, and I was going to community college, and it was cool. And had almost no expenses because I was living with my folks. Later on, I'd have a lot of disputes with Jeff. He often didn't pay you sporadically. Sometimes he'd pay you regularly. Sometimes he'd be like, I'll get you next week. It was kind of irritating. And we finally had a huge breakup where I stopped working for him because Jeff Mack was a dishonest person. He would say anything for money. And he told a parent that he had been in the Marine Corps. Jeff had never been in the Marine Corps. I took that personally. I just come back from war, okay? And that was the beginning of the end and the end. So one instructor, he promoted this kid, Ed Youngsa, from brown belt to black belt kind of quickly because another instructor had quit, and there we were. And I was in charge of the Hamilton School, and Ed was doing most of the teaching at kind of somewhere near Princeton. I forget the name. But Ed he had a lot of flaws. He had a great right leg. He was very limited in elsewhere. He'd injured his left leg and kind of never recovered it, never rehabbed it, and decided he was a Taekwondo guy. He was really into Bill Wallace, all the books. Song H. Kim produced the video series for Panther, and he was training out of them, and he introduced me to Panther Productions, which, if you all don't know, was a video company that sold videos, martial arts instructional videos, for like $50 and $60 a piece back in the 80s and 90s. And Golden Eagle gave us a wholesale account, and we would sometimes go up to, not Golden Eagle, a place called Asian World of Martial Arts in Philadelphia. We'd take road trips out there and buy stuff, gis, weapons, and instructional videos, and we got a bit of a discount. And we began like copying them and trading them like baseball cards. I'll make you a copy of, Taekwondo 1 through 5 for letting me copy Kenpo 1 through 5 or something like that, right? And Song H. Kim was, I don't know what he's up to. I don't even know if he's still alive. An incredible martial artist in realms of Taekwondo. And he started training. I started training the kicks and stuff, and thought it was cool. Thought it was really good stuff. I briefly trained at ATA Dojangs on deployments, and it's not ATA, WTF. Back then it was called WTF. I had trained in WTF, Olympic style Taekwondo, during deployments in the Marines at near other bases, and to me, it actually wasn't as cool as the ATA, but they were more down with fighting, right? And they fought continuously with chest protectors and headgear and whacked each other, so a little bit more down with that, but less hand techniques. So eventually, Ed was like, I don't want to work for Jeff no more. I want to get a black belt in Taekwondo. Because I'd tease him about it. I'm like, why don't you just learn it? And he'd criticize things about the ATA. A lot of it was out of jealousy. The Taekwondo I did, I'm like, well, just get a black belt then. So he decided to do it. And he quickly realized, he was not good at learning forms. And he's like, can you help me? I'm like, all right, well, then, I have to learn the entire curriculum with you and get this black belt. And So eventually, as time went by, he started corresponding and sending videos to Master Song H. Kim, and there was like a evaluation fee. And eventually he's like, we're going to go to Connecticut for the whole weekend. We got a hotel room. And we're going to take a special seminar. And that'll review everything from white to black. And then the next step will be a black belt test. And so I went up there with him and met him, and we trained for 2 days. And he has a big 3-story school, 2 stories of school, and then the top store was like a warehouse for his martial arts gear and productions company, right? And I think at the time he was getting ready to transition away from Panther Productions and work for himself. And I saw a class that was run. His first degree black belts and second degree black belts aren't really much to scream about. The WTF, it's not that hard to get a black belt in their style. The forms curriculum is super easy. They don't focus on it as much. They're like, learn the kicks, hit the pads, spar competitively. It's now an Olympic sport. That's what we're about. But that being said, I have seen some impressive forms people in WTF Taekwondo. And I've even met a few who could actually punch. Kind of rare. I have sparred Koreans that trained in Korea in WTF Taekwondo. And when you close in on them and punch them, they're like, oh, don't punch the chest. I'm like, I'll punch you in the chest. I'll punch you in the face. This is fighting. And they're kind of like, huh? And, not fighting them in their dojang. So sometimes when you close in, they get in a clinch and they kind of like get their arms around you like underhooks, but without grabbing. And when they do that to me, I would like throw them down. I'd hip toss them, do a tackle, get on top, mount, and they would just freak out. So tremendously good at what they do, really out of their depth anywhere else. You could say that for a lot of Taekwondo. And it's, again, probably not their fault. You don't get good at what you don't train at. Although, there is a guy, I think he's still there in Hamilton, New Jersey, Master Park, who also had black belts in judo and taught a separate judo class, Korean-style judo. And that's another story. Because if you train at that school, you have the possibility of being good standing up and on the ground, still weak in punches. And I think he also had Hapkido. So there was a joint locking and anti-grabbing curriculum. So you can work with this. So we're there with Song H. Kim. And again, just really good at what he did. And I remember he started teasing me about how much better the Korean Marines were than the U.S. Marines, and I just smiled and grinned and bared, and I'm like, whatever, I don't know. Never served with the ROK Marines. They have a high reputation. Vietnam, they were very feared. I kept running into guys whose like dads, had been in Vietnam, or uncles, and talked about, damn, those, excuse my language, those Korean gooks are fucking crazy. One guy talked about how his dad was forced recon, and they were under mortar attack from probably VC, and the Marines, hunkered down, put on their flak jackets and helmets, and waited for this thing to be over. And the ROK Marines just very calmly grabbed their gear, stepped outside into the jungle, came back a couple days later with the mortars and the mortar plates and the ammunition that they got from the enemy they killed. So there it is. So we get back from Connecticut, and that was all the material, and there was a date set for the black belt test for WTF Taekwondo. And Ed was like, all right, Master Kim gave me a call, and we're going to go there and we're going to test. And he said, here's how much it's going to cost. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. He goes, why? I said, I'm not paying that much for first degree black belt in a style I already have a first degree black belt in a style that's more complete, has better forms, uses more hand techniques. What do I need it for? It's all you. More or less, that was my words. And he did that, and eventually, he did break away from Golden Eagle, and Golden Eagle eventually shut down for a separate reason. Jeff was like in debt. He owed money to maybe some Italians. And also he was scamming the shopping center he was in, where he had found a way to take both water and electricity from a shop that he shared a wall with. This was the kind of stuff Jeff did. He was not an honest man. Man knew how to make money, but not legitimately, A little bit of ethics, a little bit of being nicer to your subordinates. He would probably still be there, and he would have been rich. More rich than he was and stayed rich. Last I heard, he was a barber. He owned a barber shop. Before that, for a while, he had almost nothing, and he was swinging a hammer as a construction worker with a back problem, taking opioids. So Ed eventually opened a WTF Taekwondo Dojang somewhere around the Hamilton region, maybe around Ewing Township, if I'm not mistaken. And we would collaborate. We would get together and train, right? Much later, after he broke away from the WTF, and I'm going to tell you why, he formed his own martial art. He communicated with Jeff Mack, and he got promoted to 4th degree black belt to take over the Goju Dao Te style. And by then it was called Goju Dao Te Taekwondo. And I trained, on and off with Ed, and I got my ranks up to 4th degree black belt in that style with Ed, and my 4th degree test was nothing more than a full contact match with Ed. And I'd say I did pretty well for a guy that at the time wasn't doing a lot of sparring, because at one point in his own garage, I had him backed up against the wall of his garage, and I hit him with 6 jabs to the face, and he backed up, and I straight blasted him. And then I saw an opening for a kick. I threw a roundhouse kick to his head, and I pulled it because I realized I was really going to hurt him. All right. And yeah, he landed his kicks on me and his punches on me, but, to me, the decisive moment is when I get to straight blast you and back you into a wall and object or drop you down. That's kind of my objective. The kick was gravy, and I decided to pull it, and everybody there saw it. So Ed Youngsa, still brash. He didn't necessarily like Koreans that much. He didn't necessarily like other races that much. I'm going to leave it at that. So he told me he got up to 2nd degree, and he was testing for his 3rd degree, and Master Sang H. Kim came to visit his school, right, to run the testing. And he had brought another black belt with him to spar with Ed, and I think the guy was a 2nd degree or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. And Ed was the 2nd, testing for his 3rd. And Ed likes to do the flippy kicks, the Waller style kicks, and he was just scoring on this guy left and right, according to him. And Master Kim was like, "Use trembling shock." If you know anything about Olympic style Taekwondo back in the 90s, they wanted you to hit hard, cause trembling shock. And Ed just blurted out, "Your boy can't do anything with me. I'm just kicking him all day long." So apparently, Master Kim got really mad at that, stopped the testing. He was in his suit and tie. He said, "Give me gi." So he borrowed a dobak. He probably used the word dobak. put on a dobak, put on a borrowed black belt, and said, "You fight me." And Ed started fighting Master Kim, who, way past his prime, folks. Again, probably in his 50s, right? Definitely past 40. And Ed would have been in his 30s at the time. Ed was taller than Master Kim for sure. Probably a little bit more mass to him, and he was solid. Ed said, yeah, basically the last thing he remembered was Master Kim turning and doing a spinning kick. I don't know if it was a spinning straight back kick or a jump spinning back kick. And he said he remembered getting hit in the body, and what he remembered after that was waking up, propped against the wall. The body kick had knocked him unconscious. And next to him was his black belt and a signed third-degree certificate. And Song-Ye Kim had knocked him out in front of his entire school, including students of his that had tested, probably some for black belt, and left him there unconscious. Like, instructed them, leave him alone. He will be, told them to leave him alone, he'll be fine. And apparently no one had thought to. I think it would have been even more embarrassing if they'd called an ambulance. Right? That was Ed telling me what Song-Ye Kim did to him. And after that, he broke away from the WTF and formed Ed Youngsa Martial Arts Systems. So, he's gone now. And EY Martial Arts, I think he had a third-degree student of his that took over for a while, and then, the school eventually closed during the pandemic. So there it is. But Song-Ye Kim, he was nobody to be trifled with. I'll look him up someday and see if he's still around and what he's up to. But he has produced a galactic library of books, videos from both Panther and his own companies, and probably trained hundreds of people to black belt, and way past his prime, knocked a competent young martial artist, probably at the peak of his physical ability in the prime of his life, unconscious with a body shot. So take that as you will.